All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we are unpacking a massive clash of empires, a profound test of faith, and honestly, a wildly desperate 17th century rescue mission. We're looking at a historical account that kicks off with this intense, immediate tone of urgency. It paints a super vivid picture of an inevitable, high-stakes collision between two immense forces in India. It's really a story of survival against all odds, and we're going to explore exactly how this intense standoff unfolded and, why it still resonates so powerfully today.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because the core question we're looking at here is absolutely fascinating. How exactly did a military and religious conflict way back in the 1600s end up birthing a legendary temple that is literally still standing today? We aren't just looking at, abstract dates on a timeline here. We're tracing a very specific physical narrative of survival and relocation. The accounts guide us through this sudden, terrifying crisis, showing us how the geographical landscape of faith was, quite literally, shifted by a looming existential threat.
So to really understand that threat, we got to rewind to 1689. According to the historical accounts we're analyzing, the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb issued what's called a firman, basically a royal decree. And this one commanded the destruction of all temples. Shortly after this decree dropped, the narrative states that a Mughal army began its march directly on Mathura. And I want to point out the highly charged language used in these source accounts. They explicitly framed the advancing forces as a bloodthirsty Mughal army. The immediate aftermath of this march? An absolute imminent crisis for the revered Shrinathji temple over in Mathura. The stage is totally set for a catastrophic confrontation.
Now, the psychological contrast here is just stark. On one hand, you have the priests of Mathura. The text describes them as being completely paralyzed by the fear of Aurangzeb's approaching forces, literally just shutting their doors, waiting in the dark, and suffocating in terror. But then, the narrative explosively shatters that silence. Enter Maharana Raj Singh, a leader famously crowned the Lion of Mewar. Instead of hiding, he sent a bold, resounding challenge. A deafening declaration, really, sent directly to the terrified priests and, by extension, right at the might of the entire Mughal Empire.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer defiance of that moment. The Maharana didn't just offer some polite asylum. No, he sent a roaring vow. The historical translations capture it kind of like this. As long as I wear the Rajput turban, neither Aurangzeb nor his entire empire can touch the deity. Now notice the powerful imagery there. The Rajputi pagdi, the Rajput turban, it isn't just a piece of clothing here. In this context, it represents the absolute ultimate symbol of a warrior's honor, their sacred duty, and an unyielding promise of protection. It is a statement of complete, unbreakable resolve.
But, words, even incredibly powerful ones, mean very little without the action to back them up, right? Well, get a load of this. 100,000, 1 lakh soldiers. The accounts claim the Maharana mobilized this staggeringly massive army to physically back up his vow against the Mughals. That's enough soldiers to fill a modern mega stadium. He wasn't just making some empty, poetic promise. It's a jaw-dropping figure, presented by the source to emphasize the immense, awe-inspiring scale of Mewar's resistance and their total, uncompromising commitment to this rescue.
So the crucial point is how this massive military mobilization turned into a physical, logistical rescue mission. It followed a really clear, desperate trajectory. Step 1, they had to extract the deity from the immediate danger zone in Mathura. Step 2, they utilized that huge army to ensure completely safe passage and ultimate protection within the heavily guarded borders of Mewar. And finally, Step 3, because the deity was safely brought to Mewar, it led directly to the establishment of the modern-day Nathdwara Temple. The historical narrative draws this straight, unbroken line from fierce military defiance to a lasting architectural and spiritual legacy.
But here's the thing. This story doesn't just stay in the 17th century. The source actually concludes its historical recount with a very direct, modern prompt to the reader. It asks, "Does your chest swell with pride? Comment Jai Shri Krishna." It's really fascinating. We are seeing firsthand how this ancient dramatic history is being actively used as a tool right now today. It's deliberately crafted to evoke modern cultural pride, sparking direct digital participation and building an online community around this specific framing of history. It really shows how these old stories still breathe in our everyday internet experience.
Which brings us to the ultimate question I want to leave you with. How do historical accounts like this continue to shape our modern cultural identity? We've just seen exactly how a tense standoff from 1689 is remembered, vividly framed, and actively utilized to build community and pride in the present day. It really makes you wonder, right? How many of our modern collective identities, our digital communities, and our cultural narratives are built directly on the echoes of these ancient, dramatic stories? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.